All right, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome to the show. I am Alexander Shikola. I'll be your host today, and I am excited to share a little bit more about my company and how we operate Wollaston Real Estate Investments. We're a real estate development, investment, and holding company here in Massachusetts, based here in Holyoke, right outside of Springfield. We're seeing this is a great area of Massachusetts to invest in. It's a great area for investors to see some sizable gains, get some cash flow. And today we're going to talk a little bit about how we operate and create value as a company, and ultimately how the investors inside of our fund who invest with us can participate to earn some upside. So, initial disclaimer, this is a webinar, it's for informational purposes. We're going to discuss kind of insights in our history, how we create value, general business practices. Obviously, past performance is not indicative of future results, and such things like that. Make sure that you're talking to your financial professionals when reviewing any investments. To participate inside the Wollaston Wealth Management Fund with us, you've got to be accredited. So happy to discuss a little bit more, but take everything with a grain of salt. Make sure you talk to your financial professionals. A little bit of housekeeping here. We will do a bit of a Q&A at the end. So if you got some questions, feel free to type them in the chat. We'll try to respond to them as we go, but we will dedicate some time at the end. And then this is going to be recorded. So we can distribute this at the end if you come in a little bit late or if you have to leave. And without further ado, let's kick this show off. So that's me. I'm Alex. That's my business partner, Harrison Bonner. We've been working together since the fall of 2015, and we've had, the luxurious position of being able to work on, about $72 million worth of transactions here in Massachusetts. And effectively what we do is we take real estate projects that, people don't want. They don't love them, right? They need a lot of work. They need a lot of TLC. And we basically go in and look for, the ugly, bad, smelly projects. Typically, the worse off the property is, the better you can buy it. And in real estate, you really make your money in the acquisition and the purchase of the property, right? Because these are investments. So we understand typically what the back end value of the property will be once it's all renovated and fixed up. So yeah, we like to buy them distressed. We like to look for creative value add ideas. So, this was an example. This was a suburb of Boston. It was a single family home, and we were actually able to take the single family and get it approved for 2 additional apartments. So we turned the single family into a 3 family, and then we bought the lot next door, which was kind of just like collecting trash and, it wasn't being utilized. We were able to go through the permitting process, change the occupancy and the zoning of the parcel, and create 4 new residential apartments there. And in real estate, one of the best ways to create value is to turn something from nothing. So this is another example, a 3-family home in Chelsea, Massachusetts, with 4 off-street parking spaces, basically a studio and 2 bedroom units. And while it was a tight lot working inside the city, it really did come out quite beautifully. And it was just, it was just a block off of the water. So these new home ownership opportunities were kind of, more affordable for residents looking to be close to the city with, new construction amenities and, really just clean units. And one of the things that we really like about working in new construction is that it gives you the opportunity to really understand every square inch of the project, right? And we are licensed general contractors. So my business partner, Harrison, we became licensed in 2019, 2020, and we basically oversee all of our own developments, renovations, permitting, all that stuff. We like to keep the control because in this game, you really need to know every single moving piece. It's going to give you the best chance at success. So, we bought, this was another, this was a 2-family, actually. This was another suburb of Boston. And we purchased the property. It was about 2,400 square feet initially, but we dug down the basement. We added livable square footage in the basement by raising the ceiling height. We actually did an addition on top of the second story. So we went up and we did some dormers, and then we did an addition on the back of the property with covered parking. So this was actually probably one of our most complicated renovation projects because it blended new and old. And we worked with a third-party designer to really make these units present as best as we possibly could. We were doing this project in the middle of COVID, and we were actually able to sell it out. We really didn't achieve too many hiccups, all things considered, because if you remember, COVID was a weird time. A lot of things were on delay, and some things became more expensive. But one of our investors, our partners on this project, he made 100 grand on his money in 18 months, and the units came out beautiful, and we were able to sell these as new homeownership opportunities for residents that were looking to live in the city. And this is a 3-family in Chelsea, Massachusetts, basically a big renovation project that we did. Kind of removed some of the, moved the kitchen around, moved the bathrooms around. You're always looking to really maximize the layout, right? Make these spaces functional, make them usable. And at the end of the day, it's really our model. We look for distressed property and we go through and we just look to renovate it top to bottom, So now we're taking that skill set that we've learned and we're effectively investing in small to medium-sized multifamily buildings like this, which create lots of value, but also create wonderful cash flow. So, one of the reasons why we're so hyped up and excited for Western Massachusetts is in Massachusetts in general, we don't have enough housing. Pretty much anywhere you go, there's not enough housing. And in Western Massachusetts, we're kind of seeing this migration of residents and people that are, kind of shifting from other neighborhoods as they get more expensive. If you're familiar with Massachusetts real estate, then East Boston, South Boston, neighborhoods like that are just so tremendously expensive compared to what they used to be 5 to 10 years ago. Same thing with Worcester, right? In central Massachusetts, the prices have continued to go up, and you just start to see these people kind of migrate and move around. And Holyoke is actually grew last year. We had about 800 new people move in to our city, and there's a lot of great examples of beautiful dense real estate projects like these buildings, and quite a few of them are actually vacant because Holyoke, like a lot of other mill cities in the state of Massachusetts and really all around the country, right? When we lost our industrial manufacturing and our textiles, a lot of these cities lost a bit of their industry. So with that went residents. But like other communities in Massachusetts, Lynn, Lowell, Fall River, we're seeing all of these areas go through this great new revitalization, and they're getting new investment, they're getting new life, and they're wonderful opportunities now for investors to kind of jump in and catch the wave. So we'll talk about how we can create value with these types of assets, how we reduce risk. But without further ado, let's keep this train moving. So yeah, we'll talk about why we love real estate, how we create value, how we reduce risk, what types of buildings are we looking at? Like, what are we looking for, right? How do we create value? How are we making our investors money? And then we'll talk about a deal at the end. So real estate, at the end of the day, it has kept up and outpaced inflation, which is important, right? Because at the end of the day, if your money isn't preserving its purchasing power and outpacing inflation, then the value of your dollar is actually declining over time, right? Because eggs are more expensive today than they were 30 years ago, right? And they most likely will be more expensive in another 10 to 20 years. So by investing in assets that keep up and outpace inflation, it's a wonderful way to protect your purchasing power. And real estate over the long haul has been quite successful in terms of long-term growth potential, right? So it's continued to rise throughout throughout the life of real estate, but there's great, proven systems, value add strategies that already work. One of the good things about real estate and working in real estate is that you're not recreating the wheel, right? I'm not coming up with some new technology company that's going to shake up an industry and, yada, yada, yada. I'm looking at a beat up old building that I can buy cheap, that I can renovate through improvements, through renovations. And then at the end of the day, based on, comparables and net operating income statements, we can derive a value and create equity and return on investments for the people that partner with us, right? And this wealth, this stability, at the end of the day, is backed by an asset, right? So pending, an act of God, these buildings aren't going anywhere. So that's a wonderful way, when you invest money, you know where your money is. Like I said, comprehensive risk management, we're not recreating the wheel. There's lots of tried and true practices that work. Good management, good maintenance teams, having a good customer service, tenant retention strategy, right? Because happy tenants pay their rent. There's ways to, mitigate, certain common risks associated with apartment rentals, and help protect that cash flow from a rental income perspective. We'll talk about Section 8 and some of the, housing voucher programs that we use so we can effectively, quote unquote, guarantee as much active rental income as we possibly can. And, when you compare real estate to other alternatives like gold and silver, which, real estate's great because it's generating cash flow, right? It's not as subjectable as like, fancy art. It's not as risky in a lot of situations as other private equity and venture capital models, right? To where, it is a business model that you need to know and understand. But like I said, we're not recreating the wheel with some new investment idea that we need to hit, 100x on or 500x on, right? It's not really as volatile, especially in the asset classes that we invest in. So like, cryptocurrency, which isn't really backed by anything, can go up and down. Stocks and equities, bonds and fixed income, they're not, even the ones that are in inflation backed and shift with that, they're not performing and earning really that level of cash flow. And then stocks, depending on how you're diversified and what types of sectors you're targeting, it can be, highly volatile, so certain parts of real estate can be as well. We'll talk about really, reducing risks in the sector of real estate that we like to invest in, but more to come on that. So how do we create value? How do we reduce risk? So we can start with really these primary deal requirements. And we'll for the sake of these next few slides, we're going to go ahead and call this kind of like our buy box, right? So we're looking initially, we want properties that are under market value. We want them to be beat up, right? We want them distressed. We want them ugly. We want them not working as intended, right? And then we want them vacant, which means like no people inside. And the reasons why is it gives you a lot of control. It reduces your risk, gives you the flexibility to budget for everything, right? When you're looking at distressed real estate, right? The plumbing doesn't work, the roof leaks, not all the electricity goes, not all the electricity works, or maybe it's really dated. When you go into a property and you budget to do everything in the property, you substantially reduce your risk because as long as you know how to do those repairs, as long as you know how much those repairs cost, you kind of remove all of the what ifs, right, of the project. And that gives us a bit of a market niche advantage because these distressed properties, especially the small to medium-sized multifamily deals. They're a little too big for like your mom and pop home flippers, right? Like those guys on HGTV. But at the same time, they're too small for your really large institutional developers that are tackling, 100 to 400 units at a time, right? And we like them vacant because this really removes any issues that would come with a tenant in um, a distressed home position, right? So you don't have to worry about either removing a tenant, right, having to go through some eviction process and then ultimately displacing them. We take that off the table. Uh, and it gives us immediate control of the property so we can get in and start renovating it as quickly as possible. So when we talk about our buy box, I think it's important to focus on why we're targeting these types of commercial multifamily deals. So, commercial multifamily is valued on how it performs financially, right? What are your income? What are your expenses, right? You take the difference of those two, and then you effectively divide that number by what we call a cap rate, right? A cap rate is effectively the net operating income of the property if you paid for it entirely with cash. So, no bank debt. So if you wanted to make 10% on your money every year, it'd be a 10 cap. If you wanted 7%, it'd be a 7 cap, 3%, so on and so on. And certain real estate markets have different cap rates, right? Typically, your most expensive, fancy luxury tower is going to be the most expensive property with the smallest return on investment. Something that generates a higher return on investment from a cash flow perspective. That might be in like a secondary or a tertiary market. But at the end of the day, all of these multifamily properties are based on income. So it's a simple formula to understand what your real estate's going to be worth. And with that, there's great stable cash flow. Commercial multifamily is known for cash flow, right? And you've got efficient property management by working with multiple units under one roof, right? Think about this, like if you had a 10-unit apartment building that needed a roof, you fix one roof, you take care of 10 tenants. But if you have 10 single family homes and you fix one roof, you're only fixing one tenant's roof, right? So there's some ways to, optimize your costs and make your property management a bit more effective, right? And commercial multifamily, when you're looking at buying or selling, this is more of like a B2B transaction, business to business. So the negotiations can be typically a little bit less emotional compared to, a retail buyer who's looking to maybe buy their dream home. And, kind of on that front, we're not really targeting pieces of real estate that impact home ownership. Actually, on the contrary, the multifamily investments that we've done in the past actually create more home ownership opportunities, which is another great value to the community inside multifamily investing. So now, when we talk about multifamily, we've done smaller condominium deals, but what we've really recognized is the 10 to 30 unit buildings have some great benefits. One of them being they're too small for institutional investors. The guys that are building 200 units at a time, they're not looking at these buildings. They're too small. But your home flippers, they're looking at, 1 and 2 family homes. They don't want to take on the headache of, 15 apartments, 15 renovations, 15 sets of tenants. There's some systems and scale that are required to effectively manage a piece of real estate like that. So for us, we live and breathe in this space. So for us, it's a bit of a market niche advantage. And there's a little less competition as a result. So with less competition and a good abundance of opportunities, Western Massachusetts, Hampden County, Central Mass, areas that we're targeting, is a great way to target good opportunities. And this is really scalable, right? Because, if you have a 10-unit building and each apartment rents for $1,000 a month, that 10-unit building is generating $120,000 a year in gross rental income. But at the end of the day, if you have 10 of those, now you've got a $1.2 million business. So if you've got the team and you've got the systems and you've got the efficiency and you know how to create value by renovations, rebranding, good operational strategies, this is a very scalable business model. And it's one of the reasons why, 70% of millionaires make their first million through real estate, which is a fun little fact. And at the end of the day, these 10 to 30 unit buildings, they're not impacting homeownership opportunities or FHA home buyer opportunities, because the types of deals that we're looking at, A, are distressed, so regular banks don't want to finance them, but B, they're commercial, and that's a completely different loan package. So, when someone's looking to buy a house, they might be targeting like a residential FHA style home loan. So we're not even in the same pond, right? We're not even looking at the same types of deals, and distressed and vacant, good value add potential, right? Like I said, it's market niche. A lot of people, they don't want to take on 10 sets of apartment renovations, 15 sets of plumbing, 15 sets of appliances, 15 sets of floors. So this is a good niche for us to operate and execute in. And vacant properties don't come with tenants. So you get to place your own tenants. You get to screen them, underwrite them, make sure that they can pay the rent consistently. So you kind of reduce a lot of your tenant-related challenges just by planning to acquire with no tenants in place and to place your own. And pretty much everywhere in Massachusetts, if you've got a vacant apartment, you've got plenty of demand to fill it, right? And when you're revitalizing these distressed and vacant properties, the community wants it. They're happy to see it, because nobody wants to see a boarded up property or a home in their neighborhood, right? Nobody wants to drive past a beat up, old, burnt apartment building on the way to their apartment. So the community appreciates these types of investments. And at the end of the day, you're really, you're adding taxable revenue to the community. This is now an asset to the city as much as it is to the investors and the people that are actually living in the home. Now, we like properties that we can renovate pretty quickly. Inside of our buy box, we're targeting properties that we can flip or complete in 2 to 3 years tops, right? If you're thinking about a 20 or 30 unit building, we want to be able to do the deal as quickly as possible, because obviously the more quickly you can do the deal, the more quickly you can reinvest your money and your profits into the next deal, right? So shorter cycles help accelerate investor returns, which obviously makes everybody happy, right? Because we're making more money. Shorter projects, allow for that rapid redeployment. So the portfolio growth over time can exponentially grow the more quickly you can do those types of projects. And at the end of the day, as an operator, it's important that you have enough time to complete the renovation. So you don't want to go into a deal and say, hey, it'll take me 9 months to do this renovation, when it's really an 18-month project, because now, expectations are important. And then we're always looking at properties that, we can create some instant equity in, right? So we're looking for deals that are under market, right? We want to buy them cheaper than it would cost to build them or replace them, right? And we're always looking at projects where, we can double investor capital or maintain effectively like a 20% internal rate of return. So, one project held over 5 years, at a 20% internal rate of return, is doubling your money. So 100 would turn into 200 in a case like that. The more quickly you can do it, the better the return, right? Now, Holyoke, Massachusetts, Hamden County, Hampshire County. This is where I live. This is where we operate. These good areas in Western Massachusetts have a lot of distressed property that are available. Now, that is changing. We're seeing more investors come into the neighborhoods, and eventually, you'll go from distressed available property to new construction and redevelopment where you're adding more density. We're on, kind of the lower end of the curve up, if you will. But Holyoke offers a unique mix of, distressed real estate properties that are ideal for people looking to grow their money through real estate investments. And the nice thing is that the government, City Hall, the stakeholders here locally, they want their city to grow. They want to see their projects revitalized. We've got new companies moving here. We've got $150 million infrastructure investment happening downtown with a new concrete company. We've got a smart green high performance computer lab. We've got 88 new units of 55 and up housing with an institutional developer being built. And so by being really focused on this area, it gives us the opportunity to understand the market and leverage some of that knowledge so we can be competitive because we know what the neighborhood looks like. We know what certain parts of the neighborhood need more focus on and vice versa, right? And then, you're not only are you creating value immediately through renovations and turning properties that don't make money into properties that do make money, but you do get that nice growth potential benefit. Most real estate, typically appreciates over time. So you're going to get that kind of cherry on top, long-term growth potential by investing in these types of assets when they're a little bit lower compared to investing in them when they're very expensive. We can purchase and renovate, an apartment, for example, here in Western Massachusetts for say approximately $75,000 to $100,000. And then we can rent that apartment for $1,200 to $1,800. So good bang for your buck in terms of rental revenue. Meanwhile, today I saw a 3-family home in the North End of Boston, which is a great neighborhood, great food. Who wouldn't want to live in North End? And that's why it's so expensive. But each apartment sold for over $700,000, and small apartments. But even if you're charging, $4,000 to $5,000 a month, which is expensive, but if one of your tenants can't pay for 3 months, for some example, now you've lost $15,000 of income, and you can't even cover your mortgage because the exposure to the cost of that real estate is so high in comparison to a different market with a different pricing structure. So it's one of the reasons why we really substantially focus on Holyoke, because you get great cash flow and you can build in immediate equity through renovations, repositioning, and rebranding. So, more on the strengths and assets, right? Low acquisition costs, high upside potential, niche market. We're general contractors. We're doing the projects that are too small for home flippers, too big for home flippers, too small for institutional guys and gals. We're not reinventing the wheel here, right? Lots of people have done real estate. Lots of people have done real estate construction. So you learn the tricks of the trade, and then you go and you apply those. So, renovations and repositioning, operational improvements through good management, right? Because these buildings, remember, we talked about it on another slide, they are evaluated based on how they perform financially. So if you can reduce your expenses, you can increase your value. So things like low flow shower heads, low flow toilets. These are operational improvements that will move the needle. And when you think about this from a scalable business model, saving $100 every 3 months on a single property might not seem like a big deal, or on a single apartment or a single family home. But if you can do that across 50 to 60 units, now you can see this really substantial, large increase in value. So, these types of assets give us all of those scalability, all those strong return on investment potentials, but we also get great tax advantages because when you invest in real estate, you get to depreciate the property over time. When you make investments into the property, you get to depreciate those. And there's other tricks of the trade like cost segregation models, which allow you to speed up the depreciation of the real estate so you can really compress those taxable write-offs into a short period of time, and then you can pass them off. So in our fund, if you're an accredited investor and you invest money into the fund, you effectively become an owner of the fund, and the fund owns a bunch of real estate. So you become an owner in all the real estate. So whenever we put money into an investment, we get to use that as a taxable event. Whenever we do a cost segregation, we get to use that as a taxable event, and we can pass off 80% of those benefits to our investors inside the Wollaston Wealth Management Fund while diversifying their investment effectively across an entire portfolio. So great benefits to investing in real estate. And if you want to do it passively, you can work with an operator with a model like ours to grow your income, and let your money work for you 24/7. So, we love these assets. We're looking at turning challenges into strengths. Some people don't want to buy the properties that need everything, and I don't blame them. It's a lot of work, and sure, it can come with some headaches, but that's the business we're in. And that's what we've learned how to do over the last, 9 years across our $72 million worth of transactions. But by investing in those types of assets, in those types of buildings that need everything, you're really reducing your risk because you've done it all, right? You did all the floors, you did all the insulation, you did all the windows, you did all the plumbing, you did all the electricity, you did the roof. So if something breaks, now it's under warranty. So it reduces a lot of the risk, and also it doesn't allow a lot of damages to spread between units because that can happen in an old property with leaky plumbing, right? Just ask anybody who owns an old building and they'll tell you. So we reduce risk by underwriting for kind of like the worst case scenario, what is, everything plus a 10% contingency, what's the lowest risk or what's the lowest rent we can collect. And, we substantially reduce our risk because we leverage government-backed housing voucher programs like Section 8. And Section 8 will actually tell you how much they will pay you even before you own the building. You can look this up. HUD fair market rents, and 3 bedrooms now in Holyoke. If you're renting up a new vacant 3-bedroom, you can rent it for $1,800, and the tenant pays a small portion of that rental payment. And if for any reason they stopped paying their rent, you as a landlord would have to go through the unfortunate turmoil of evicting them, and that sucks. Nobody wants to evict people. It's not a win-win. It's a necessary evil in the business, but it sucks to do it. So when you look at when you leverage tenants with Section 8, they don't want to get evicted because they could lose their Section 8. So there's other programs locally in Massachusetts. If someone loses their job and maybe they don't have, they don't have income for 3 months, there's other assistance programs on top of Section 8 that will actually help tenants, stay current with their rent. That was something that was created as a result of COVID, and it's still around, and it's one of the, it's one of the great benefits to investing in Massachusetts because Massachusetts spends a lot of money on housing. So if you're a landlord, those those doors are open to you for collection. So we manage our own real estate. Property management, you got to do it, right? No one's going to care about your baby like you do, right? And after you've been there and you've renovated the property yourself and you've done all of this work, it's like, handing it off to a different property manager. You've already done all the hard work, right? So we like to do it because it reduces our costs, right? Most property management's like, 10%, give or take, at least in our asset class, our size. The institutional guys pay a little bit less, but they're bigger buildings. But by keeping it in-house, it allows you to focus on the customer service, right? Because happy tenants pay rent, so you can get to that repair as quickly as possible and reduce your costs, which we can pass on to the investors. So when we manage our real estate, there's a 7% management fee. So, approximately 3 to 5% savings for investors who participate with us. And then, we leverage insurance platforms like the guarantors, which are effectively insurance programs for renters. So in the event, they stop paying and you have to evict them, now you can actually collect, any loss to lease, any time you spent. There's security deposit programs, lots of great opportunities inside the guarantors. And if you're a landlord, I would highly suggest you go check them out for yourself. This is something that the tenants can pay for. So if you're doing first, last security, you can have them pay first month up front, get an insurance policy through the guarantors for 11, 12 months, and actually have it be cheaper than collecting the full 3 months. And then, we do things like have our own application process. So we can quickly speed up our leasing and make sure that we've got a good pool of qualified applicants as we are getting ready to turn over a unit. That way we can get it rented as quickly as possible. You don't want them sitting on the market really any longer than you have to. And, construction management. If you ever want to learn, if you ever want to learn about the business, get in bed with a bad GC, and they will you'll get involved because you'll have to be. And after 2017, we had a bad experience with a general contractor on a couple projects, and it was just like, oh, never again. So after that, we became licensed, and now we oversee everything, right? So we get to maintain all of our costs because we're individually managing each subcontractor, right? So if we ever have an issue with the plumber, and you need to let go of the plumber, you get to keep, your sheetrock guys, you get to keep your electricians, you get to keep your flooring guys. Whereas, if you're investing and you're working with a general contractor and you guys get into a fight and part ways, you lose the whole team. So this, reduces costs, speeds up timelines, lets us maximize value. And at the end of the day, it's more efficient, right? Why wouldn't it be? And it gives you more transparency. It's more work, of course, it's more work, but this is our business. This is what we do full time. And inside of the Wollaston Wealth Management Fund, we don't charge any general contracting fees. So we're basically doing we're doing these projects. We're doing them, for the cost of the project. And then we pass on those savings to you, because a lot of general contractors are charging 10, 20%. Even from a commercial perspective, they can charge that much. You go to the residential market, right? Try to get a new kitchen in your home, and sometimes they're marking it up substantially more. So that is increased efficiency and transparency. And then at the end of the day, we're saving money by keeping it in-house. Now, where would we invest? Would we invest in these beautiful towers on the water, or would we buy this really ugly looking property on the bottom? Well, I'll tell you, we wouldn't invest here. And the reason why is because, we call this A class, right? This is the top of the market. These are your nicest, most fancy, high luxury properties. And at the end of the day, they're the most expensive, right? If you think about investing in a a nice apartment building downtown, whatever city you live in, it's going to be more expensive than the apartments outside of the city, right? Class A properties are going to command a premium price. So, there's benefits to investing in Class A, but your return on investment is going to be somewhat limited because you think about it, if it's already towards the top, if it's already luxury, right? It's got marble countertops, it's got an expensive appliance package, it's got a great view. It was built 20 years ago, but it's been renovated. It's got new floors. What can you really do to increase the value of that property? It's not much, right? There's only so much you can take it up, which at the end of the day provides a lower yield or return on your investment, right? Is what it is. And there's a bit of market dependence that comes with these types of assets. If you look at, Boston, for example, because Class A doesn't always mean just like residential. It could be Class A industrial. It could be Class A multifamily. Could be Class A office, right? If you had Amazon in a fulfillment center off of a major highway, that would be a Class A tenant, right? But there's market dependence. If you look at the Boston commercial real estate market, it has substantially dropped. Some of these buildings in prime locations were selling for some of them as low as 30 cents on the dollar compared to what they were purchased at just 5 years ago. And that was because of COVID. And, it changed the landscape. People aren't necessarily all working in offices anymore. But people always need somewhere to live. So, that's one of the reduction of risk by investing in residential is people always need a place to live. And then, there's somewhat of an ethical impact to investing and, creating these types of assets because as when you're thinking about making money and you're investing here and you need to take it to here, you're just going to make kind of press downward pressure on the markets below. But, alternatively, if you invest in a distressed piece of asset and then you create the value and you drive it up here, this allows for revitalization, community assets, community access, and then you're growing and benefiting that community. So when we talk about what's our acquisition process at a glance, we start on the left. Most properties won't make the cut that we want to move forward on them, right? We just turned down a 26 unit potential acquisition for 175 grand. Nope, we don't want to do it. And the reason why is because we were going through the property's strengths and weaknesses, and it was a property that had actually had a building fire. So because of that, it needed a level of renovation that was immediately triggered due to the substantial damage to the property. So, while you might think that was cool, it's vacant, it's distressed, it was too distressed. It was too distressed. The amount of money that you have to put into the property is no longer viable from a return on investment perspective. So we went ahead and said no to that. But a lot of people get tricked. How could you possibly lose on 26 units for 150 grand? Well, it's possible. So, once we've figured out what the property's strengths are and weaknesses, if we decide that we want to move forward, we put it under, we go to purchase and sale agreement, P&S, we get control of it. And this is where we take it to market, and this is where we fund it. So this is an opportunity for an investor to participate and enter the fund by investing to acquire this property and make it one of the fund's holdings. So once you've got all the money lined up, then you can purchase and close the property. And now you're on to the value add process, right? This is the fun part. This is where you're taking it from a non-performing asset and turning it into cash flowing, performing asset that's worth a lot more money. So step one is, that's the legal, that's the paperwork stuff. So that's building permits, studies, compliance, yada, 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 stuff like that. But once you get the permit in, now you can swing hammers. And let's not downplay the legal side of things, because depending on the type of project you're working on, you know, we've had the legal side of things take 2 years in the city of Boston. Lots of red tape. So, and that's understanding the process. So, not that we're targeting properties that require 2 years of legal, but we've done them. It's important to know that. But once you're past that, and you have your building permit in hand, now you can renovate the property. And this is where you increase the value, and this is when you turn it into, a taxable asset for the city, right? So this is a benefit to the community. And then really once you've renovated it, you're marketing the property. We like to market the property while we're renovating it. That way we can kind of build some hype in the market, let people get excited for it, try to get a list of people that want to move in. And then once it's all renovated, now we can lease it up. This is where we can use our leasing process. We use our in-house management team. We place everybody, get them all moved in. And at this point, you're, now you got a cash flowing asset and you can hold on to it for a couple years, collect the revenue, right? Take advantage of all the taxable benefits, stuff like that. And then you can ultimately sell it. Or you could sell it as fast as you want. We like to maximize the value. So unless we're getting an awesome offer right out the gate, we're going to hold on to it for a little while, maybe refinance it, reinvest that money, and do this all over again. So we like to take projects from uninhabitable all the way on the left, need the TLC. Most people don't want them. They need a lot of renovations, and we turn them into a middle of the road property, right? So it's well maintained, it's nice, it's new, it's got some modern amenities. We're appealing to middle income tenants, or we're maximizing and reducing our risk by looking at Section 8. At that point, the nice thing is you can sell this to somebody else, and maybe they want to take the next 5 to 10 years to turn it from, a B class piece of real estate and turn it into an A class asset. So by doing uninhabitable all the way up to B, you're leaving room for the next guy. You're not taking all the equity out. But at the end of the day, you could take it from uninhabitable and you could take it all the way to B and then eventually ride the market. And when it turns into a luxury market, turn it into an A-class asset with high-end finishes and extensive amenities, right? This just depends on your market. So, this is one of the projects that we're doing inside of the fund. This is 156 High Street. It's a 12-unit building that we're basically restructuring. We purchased it. We're buying it out of bankruptcy. So this building was 250 grand. Put about $850,000 of renovations into it. That's refinishing the floors, doing new windows. This building actually has a good roof already, so we don't have to do the roof. But new electrical systems, basically new fire alarms, stuff like that. And the building has got an appraisal pretty much already in hand, or we've got an appraisal in hand, and it's valued at about $450,000 right now. So we bought it with equity, and it's got a projected value of over $2 million. And the nice thing is about this, so you can see all of the equity we create by renovating it and turning it into a nice building. So you got equity right there, but this property will generate over $220,000 in annual income. So, this is cash flow that the investors are making on their money. And it's hard to earn $223,000 in gross rental revenue on $1 million renovation. It can be challenging. But here with this market and this asset class, you really can. And you can beat or exceed some of your more luxurious markets by investing here. So, this is a property we expect to hold on to for about, 4 to 5 years. And, inside the fund, the Wollaston Wealth Management Fund, we're going to close it down at the end of year 5. That's where we'll sell everything or have fund number 2 buy fund number 1 and buy all the investors out, or let the investors participate in a new round of investments. But yeah, thank you for taking some time to learn a little bit more about our company. I'm Alex with Wollaston Real Estate Investments. I hope you have a really wonderful evening. Thank you.